If you're a music producer, mixing or mastering engineer, you know there is a ton of garbage information out there. I'm here to set the record straight and show you the right way to do things. So buckle up, smash the subscribe button, like this video, because you'll actually leave with the finesse you need for your next master. First up is the infamous cut below 20 Hz for more headroom.
It means that we should get rid of that, because the lower the frequencies go, the more headroom they take.
So by cutting out these larger low-end frequencies, you're actually giving yourself...
No! God, please, no! No!
Does it give you more headroom? No, it doesn't give you more headroom all the time. Sometimes it does it. There's excessive gain down there, but otherwise you need to remember EQ is a product of phase, not necessarily gain. And when the phase is inverted below the cutoff frequency, it can shift the polarity of a waveform in a positive direction, thus creating louder peak levels. So, what do you do instead if you need to attenuate sub-frequencies? There are use cases for high-pass filters, but for the most part, you only need to shave off 1, 2, 3 dB, just a little bit out of the subs to even it out. Here's how you go about it. What you do is, instead of using this high-pass filter, use a low-shelf filter. And the aim of this low-shelf filter is that it's actually, I'll open up Plugin Doctor here, is that it's 1 octave above the cutoff of the high pass filter. And the reason why is this will give you the same effective -3 decibel cut at 20 Hertz, or whatever the fundamental frequency is that you're trying to cut from, because the half power point of all high pass filters is a -3 decibels at that cutoff frequency. If you go an octave up with a low shelf, so instead of 20 Hertz, I'll wear 40 Hertz, -3 dB, you have the same amount of gain power down there. So you're going to get the same half power point, so -3 decibels at that 20 Hertz, but without the big shift in phase, which is causing that headroom to completely get chewed up. See here, that's the phase of the low shelf, and that's the phase of the high pass filter. The next piece of advice that's absolute trash is that you should have a widening plugin in your mastering chain. Wider isn't always better. I'm going to explain the science between the physics of the speaker and the actual signals. So, we know stereo signals, there's a sum and a difference that gives us our mid-side matrix. The sum signal comes from phase coherent information. And this is where it gets important, because that means if it's phase coherent between the left and the right speaker, they're reproduced, those sound waves are reproduced at equal power between the speakers. And that's why when you have a mono signal, it sounds punchier and louder, because the physics of having two speakers playing the same phase coherent waveform gives you that impact, gives you that punch. Now, side or difference signals, we know, make up the stereo image, which is the phase difference or incoherence between the signals. And whilst that stereo information will immerse the listener, gives some space to a mix, they do so by unequal power between the left and right speaker, and that information is being played independently between the left and right channel. So what happens, and you'll hear this in the example, is when you increase the stereo image or the side signal, the left and right speaker are working more independently of one another, and your ability to have a punchy, kick you in the dick master is compromised. And I've level matched these so you can hear the low end of the kick. We're not listening to the stereo image. Yeah, it's getting wider, but listen to the punch in the kick and how it changes.
Are you going home? I don't want to be all on my own. Are you going home? Are you going home? I don't want to be always on my own.
Lastly, I don't know why, but so many people go, if you're using mastering EQ, you need to have linear phase. It's better for mastering. You can do little cuts and little boosts. It's not. So what I want you to do is listen to the pre-ringing introduced by this linear phase EQ. You'll hear the low end almost reverses into itself when swapping between the linear phase and the normal EQ.
Going home, 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 going home.
You can hear that, it just goes vroom when it's in the linear phase mode, and when it's in normal mode, it's much more punchier. Now, there is one use case for linear phase EQ, which I think everybody should just blanket use, and that's using linear phase EQ when doing mid-side processing. Linear phase retains the phase coherency between the mid and side channels, so they can sync together accurately and not skew the phase relationships of the stereo image. I'm going to show you an example of this, and this is really important to understand, especially when it comes to mid-side EQ. So what I've got here is a mid-side EQ. It's excessive. You never cut this much low, and you never boost this much upper mid. It's like 12 dB boost, but you're going to hear what happens with the phase relationship. So the zero latency one is shifting the phase of the side signal. So when it sums back, it's going to change the tone of the kick drum and the tone of the snare drum. And you'll hear that in the linear phase mode, it's more punchy, the kick drum, and the top end of the snare is just extends off a little bit more naturally without those sort of weird phasey relationship or holes in it. Yeah, especially in that low end, it completely changes the punch of that kick. Completely changes that kick's punch, and that's really important to understand that linear phase EQ does have a purpose in stereo field or side signal processing. It's really important. So if you've enjoyed this, there might be some simple mastering advice that you're still sleeping on that will actually help you. And here's a video where I discuss 8 tips that are absolutely, nobody discusses them, but anybody can implement now without compromising their processes or going to buy new plugins or redoing their whole working process. It's just good mastering tips that are just simply slept on. So click on the video and go check that out.